Welcome back to the first CopTalk podcast, and I would say it's over 15 years. Welcoming back to the podcast, both Mark and Ed. How's it going today, you guys?
Good. Down in sunny Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. It's foggy here today, but
Is it?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. We decided to fire the podcast back up after what easily is 15 years. And that might just be the longest anybody's ever gone from one podcast episode to another and still stayed relevant in iTunes. So I don't even know what to say, honestly. But, I mean, what have you guys been doing? Let's just start with either of you.
Well, Mark, since he was working back then.
Yeah, well, let's start with Mark.
Let's start with Mark. Hey, everybody. Yeah, from the last podcast, I mean, they were a lot of fun to do, and they gained popularity, and I think we were all still working at the time, and we just kind of ran out of time and space, and it kind of faded away. And I still answer some questions that Brent sent me for the website, and I would answer the questions. But the podcast kind of faded away, and Jim, the founder of CopTalk, passed away in January of 24. He had a short battle with cancer, and he won't be joining us on the podcast. But
it would certainly be interesting if he did.
Yeah,
say that. I think we would get a heck of a lot more followers if.
Well, he's probably going to be laughing his ass off at us trying to get the podcast going again.
This could turn into the coast to coast Cop Talk.
Man, wouldn't that be cool? That would bring in tons of new listeners.
Yeah.
So we started talking about getting it together again, and decided to have Ed join us. He was a guest speaker on some of our podcasts and gave us a lot of laughs and some insight. And so we decided to get it together again and start the podcast back up.
Yeah, what the heck, right?
Why not?
So
we can only fail, right?
So I guess, Ed, give us a debrief, the Cliff Notes version of the last few years. 15.
Last 15, let me see. Retired in who knows when, a long time ago, and then moved to Arizona and was bouncing around in construction. In about 2012-ish, 13, decided to get back into government work, did court security for 4 or 5 years, and then lateraled over to a sheriff's office down here in what is basically called a police aide position, but they call it something else here. And basically writing police reports, crash reports, taking fraud reports, anything that's non-suspect contact related that civilians can take, because I'm not sworn. So, but that's been fun. And then, of course, I've gone from that position into now I'm maintaining the fleet of 40 or so cars for our district, which is sometimes more interesting than taking some fraud reports that I've taken.
That's kind of ironic because you went from wrecking police cars to now maintaining a fleet.
Well, I only got into 2 crashes.
Yeah, but
only 2.
But you had tons of that's expertise, you might say.
Right.
So, yep, and that's pretty much the same for me. I think we're all technically retired now. So, I guess we're going to.
I retired 8 years ago, and I thought I was going to have to get something and jump right back into it, but I've just been enjoying retirement.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I am not enjoying retirement because I just started my own company and did a whole bunch of other stuff because technically I was only sworn as a reserve deputy for my 25 years that I did. So I would say between the three of us, we have a little bit of law enforcement experience, but who knows what will happen in the future of this. We might, maybe we'll bring on some special guests that have even more experience.
Well, let's add it up. I've got 30 years. How about you, Ed?
Well, I had 12 sworn, and now I'm on 10 in the arena, so to speak, if you will, non-sworn.
52. And what about Brent?
At least 23.
That's a lot of experience.
Yeah, I don't know if that's all good experience, but it's experience
true.
For sure. So let's recap kind of what we want to do now in the new podcast. I know in the past we talked about a bunch of different things, shared some stories, did some other various different things like in the news where we brought up, some news that's local-ish, and then talked about it or laughed about it, depending on what the news was. I know the big thing now is getting questions answered. The website's been doing that for pretty much almost all of those years in between, and we get a ton of questions. So I think in a normal week, we'll get probably 50 to 100 different questions. So they've just been stacking up. And I guess this is a perfect opportunity to kind of go through that. I know, Mark, you were mentioning the last time we talked that some of the people that you've seen that remember the book and remember all those things say that most of the stuff that we talk about is still relevant, right?
Yep. They said even though the book was 15, 20 years old, they actually got it out and went through it again. And they said they were amazed that all the tips and the examples we gave, it applies to today. I mean, some of the stuff has changed, like technology and whatnot, but the basic common sense and taking precautions, they said the stories that we wrote 15, 20 years ago apply today.
Yeah, and I guess you don't really call the cops on a payphone anymore, right? Just to put this in some perspective.
I would say certainly technology has upped the ante as far as the types of crimes that have been concerned and how easy it is to commit a crime now online or with scams and so forth.
That is for sure. Yeah, definitely the whole face of how you can get scammed or how you can get taken advantage of has sure changed because now nobody has to leave their house.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's definitely something that we'll be hitting on as we move forward. So
Ed, did you ever get that inheritance from that the guy you sent money to in Nigeria?
No, but I wish I'd have got the box of money that somebody sent to Massachusetts on a fraud scam here.
King Ed of Nigeria.
Yeah, 15 grand in a cardboard box wrapped in aluminum foil to make sure they didn't see it on the scanner at the mail.
The good old days. And now they just take over your computer and steal all the stuff without you even knowing. So
hell, with AI, we might not even have to do podcasts anymore. It could all be automatic, right?
Honestly, I saw a program the other day that all you do is load in the information. So let's say you had 2 encyclopedias, then that program will write a podcast based on the information in those 2 things.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy where technology has gone in 15 plus years. But yeah, so just some points about the podcast and what we're doing. It's audio only currently. Who knows? In the future, that might change. I don't know if anybody wants to see how ugly all 3 of us are. We might do some special guests. We'll probably do some tips and stories, although I think from the questions, we're going to probably be doing those anyway. Definitely want to hit on questions and answers from listeners. So the way that you can do that is you can actually go to our website, which is coptalk.info. There's a section on there that says how you can submit a question. You can put in fake names. We don't care. If they're interesting, it's even more fun. Put in your question, and then we will more than likely try to get it answered. I think we're going to work our way forward.
What's helpful is if you put down where you live, what state you live in. So if we do have to give some kind of information, it'd be easier to know where you're from.
Yeah, please don't put your home address. That's not good information for us, but a state is helpful. That is very much when everybody asks about driving laws and we're like, okay, thanks. Yeah, that's going to be rough for us. So I guess what we could do is maybe jump into some of these questions and see, unless there's anything else you guys want to bring up.
No, let's jump into it. We're taking this on the fly, and so let's just go for it.
Well, so first question, which is one of our newest questions, we will say this comes from somebody named RA because that's not their actual initials, but we try to keep people anonymous so that nobody gets in trouble. The question goes, I was driving on the highway the other day, a nearly 200-mile drive, and I was at a decent speed in the left lane when a car suddenly came up behind me, flashing their lights. I move over, but the driver doesn't get off my tail, thinking they want to go faster, but they merge too and light me up with red and blues. I don't understand since they were tailgating me, but I pull the shoulder coming toward the stop, but then the supposed officer, in quotes, as we all know, just drives off. So I'm slightly confused. Was it me? Was it them? Now, I'm not complaining about the end result, because none of us would, right? Who wants to get pulled over? But I don't understand. Real cop, why tailgate me? Why flash the bright lights? Then follow me, merge over, and then just drive off? Again, not complaining. But honestly, sort of scared me. Any ideas the reason behind this? Thanks. Well, this is a good one.
What do you think, Mark?
My first thought is it wasn't a cop. when we've been on the way going to calls, you don't always roll code 3 with lights and siren and everything, but you do hurry to get to calls sometimes. And sometimes I would get up on the back of a car and hoping they'd merge over, maybe flash my bright lights. And if they didn't, I would hit the red and blues real quick and then go on to my call. This one here, since they merged all the way over with them, my first impression is it is probably a impersonator or impersonating a cop or security guy, had lights in his car. I don't think it was a real cop.
Doesn't sound like it by the way he described the incident.
Yeah. I mean, if they just flashed high beams and then flashed red and blues and went on their way, I'd say it probably was. But being that they merged all the way over with them and then lit them up, that's what's kind of strange about it.
All the way onto the shoulder and coming to a stop, that seems odd. Yeah, I'd say that's somebody that's not doing what they should do. Too bad we don't have somebody didn't get a license plate, get the person reported. I guess the other question here is, if somebody does do this, what do you guys recommend? I mean, if somebody is questionable about what's happening in a situation like that, I mean, do you pull over? Do you not pull over? Do you drive off the freeway? Do you see if they follow you? What's the normal? What would be the wrong thing to do? I guess is the question.
We recently had an impersonation case down here where a guy had a Ford pickup, an F-150, which are currently being used by a lot of agencies. He had lights set up in his car. They didn't look too professional to me, but maybe to a civilian they did. And he was wearing an FBI blazer. Did a traffic stop on a couple of cars, and DPS finally caught up with him and arrested him. But their suggestion in the article in the news was to if you're not certain about it being a real police car and it has no markings on it other than lights, call 911 and do that route. Just tell them, hey, I got a car behind me with lights on. Yeah, is this a legitimate cop? And then let dispatch take it from there.
Right. Yeah.
Or if there's a nearby police station, go to the nearby police station.
Yeah. And then when the guy drives off, then when he drives off, when you go into the police station.
That's another positive recommendation for dash cams. Those are pretty dirt cheap now to get. You can get a forward-facing and a rear-facing dash cam, and you can get anything like that on video.
Yeah, that's a tough call, right? Because you don't want to be the person that doesn't stop, but you also don't want to be the person that potentially gets injured or has something happen to you from somebody that's impersonating.
Right.
I know.
So call 911 will kind of give you a CYA to a certain point,
because at least they would transfer you.
Also, unless it's an undercover car, I don't know what it's like in Arizona, but California, all police cars and county vehicles and state vehicles have an E on the license plate at the beginning. It's a small E for exempt, and if you see that, then you know it's usually an official government car, state car, police car. If it's just a regular standard license plate, hard to tell.
Yeah, down here they don't have on a regular government car. They do have a G plate, but on all the undercover detective cars and all that, it could be a commercial plate but it says nothing about being government at all.
Right, and that's a tough deal because most people, when they're getting pulled over, probably not in the best state of mind to be recording license plates and taking pictures or doing whatever. That's a tougher situation for a lot of people. Pretty scary for most people when you're getting pulled over. Any other notes? I know in California we had one where people were impersonating CHP officers with a single steady red light. CHP just came back on the news and said, if it's single steady red, we're no longer doing that. So if you don't see full light bar, you don't need to pull over.
Right.
Which is, just their way of fixing a problem that they had. Then they ended up catching the guy and putting him in jail. So, which is where.
Hey, do they have the camcorders in the cars now there that when it's on code 3, it automatically starts recording forward?
Yeah, we use Betamax right now out here. Just kidding.
Almost all of Mark Patrol cars like that?
It's all on the Axon systems usually. So as soon as lights get triggered, they start recording the entire incident.
Yeah, that'd be another thing, that if this guy was actually a real cop and doing that and his agency had that, he could wind up getting hemmed up for, well, I would think he would, doing stuff like that, pulling people over.
Yeah,
and
like a legitimate cop doing it, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. That's a
which leads.
sergeant. That's a sergeant getting yelled at right there, for sure. I can only tell you how many times I know that's happened in the past. So, anything else on that one? That's a pretty good question for our first one in 15 years. I think we can
Next.
just move on. So this next question, as much as I don't want to answer it, I think we need to at least deal with this because I get a lot of questions about this. All right, so just understand, and I think it's something that we should all talk about a little bit before we do this, that the information that we give in this podcast is our opinions. It is not legal advice. It is not, we are far from lawyers. So, I mean, I know, we're doing this as just something to help sort of bridge the gap between law enforcement and the normal civilian and try to open up that conversation a little bit more. But when it comes to questions like this one, I think we have to double down and talk to people about, this is a type of question that we can tell you, we're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you to go seek help. Right. So, and it's always been something over the probably 10 years that I've been answering questions that, they get a list back that says, please go try to find this, go talk to your family. So we can just go through this. So the question states, I need to know how to cope with the fact that I don't want to live anymore. I'm just so tired and so scared. So, in this type of situation, I think it's pretty important to say, go seek professional help, right? Go find the people that you care about. Go find your family. If your family can't help, go find friends, go find extended family. I mean, do you guys have any points that you want to add to this? We'll just make this a pretty quick question.
It would certainly be, it's obvious by the question that they're looking for help.
For sure.
That's a cry for help right there. I would certainly seek professional counseling of some sort before the next stage of that goes up.
For sure. And that's something that I've made pretty clear over the years. I don't say I want to answer these, but it feels in some ways that they need an answer because they've reached out with that type of question, right? So It's like the least we can do is point you in the right direction. But I would say, and coming from myself, a personal story of this is reach out to your friends, right? As in friends that you haven't talked to in years. I had this happen, I think it was about 7 years ago now, where I lost touch with a friend of mine and he ended up committing suicide, right? So,
wow.
And it was like, okay, well, maybe I could have done a better job, right? So maybe friends that are listening to this that have friends that are in this type of position or might be, it's time to reach out and say, hey, what's going on over there? Everything good? Let's go to dinner.
Right.
Mark, and rather than writing into us and, you got the delay from us getting it, having to answer it. I mean, call the police. Just call the police, have an officer come and talk to you and see if they could help immediately. A lot of the TV shows that you see where there's something that has to do with suicide or domestic violence, they put numbers up and they say, if you know anybody, if you or somebody suffering from this, call this number. So if you're feeling that bad about yourself, you need to get immediate help. There's a lot of numbers out there that you could call and talk to somebody immediately instead of writing us and having the delay for us to get back to it.
Well, and that's for sure, because our delay is pretty epic at times, like 15 years. So, that's probably too long. I will say that, in talking to one of my actually customers, but a large ambulance company, they actually have in place now units that deal with this specifically. Any kind of mental, health issue, they'll actually send people to go take care of that. That includes things as far as drug use and other pieces too, but including this. And that's something I'll try to find out some more information about that. It'd be interesting to hear how those calls are handled.
When I saw this question, I was going to look up the phone numbers for suicide prevention, but then I figured if I Googled it, I'd have all kinds of cars stopping out front or people thinking it was me. So I decided not to do that.
Yeah, that's kind of like using Google as your doctor, right? Same thing. I've done that once or twice, and I'm pretty sure I have everything. Yeah, let's. So we'll move on from that, but it's something that's going to come up here and there. We'll revisit those as we get those questions to make sure everybody understands that. Hopefully, us reaching out them if they listen to the podcast and they hear that, maybe they'll go seek that help.
Yeah, we actually down here now have in the agency I'm with crisis and grief counselors that pick the calls on the board. If it's a domestic or something along a mental health issue, they go out with the deputy in their own car. And once it's code 4 on scene, they go in and start talking with everybody and recommending this, that, and the other. So I don't know. Is that pretty commonplace in California now?
It sure seems like there's special units all specifically not to have law enforcement handle those calls and to have somebody else go there and talk with them.
Right. Usually it's the deputy goes with them and then the counselors right behind them once it's code 4 on scene type thing.
Yeah, I think I'll try to find out some more info on some of those programs that are offered out here. It's, I mean, obviously that's a good thing, right? So
yeah, it is. It actually takes a lot off the deputy on scene for suicides or, family deaths and that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, how much training did you guys receive on that at the academy?
Well, it was more like on the OJI type thing or on the job training.
Right, like you just figure it out yourself, right? So good to have some of those new resources out there.
But the other trouble also is suicide by cop. If the police show up and some people want the police to kill them, or if you get something where where they send citizens out to deal with these and not a police officer, what happens if you come across somebody that's armed?
Very big problem. That's why, I think I'll do some checking. I'll see I'll talk to the guy that I know that runs one of those units, or at least he's in charge of deploying those units. It'd be interesting to hear. I would assume there's some kind of scene security, and then when it's cleared, like you guys were saying, then they can send in, the mental health people versus just having, because I mean, those situations tend to sometimes just go sideways pretty quickly.
Right. They still called 1055s up there? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we still
901 Henry down here.
Yeah. I don't know in California. They might have a whole new set of codes now. It's probably a lot nicer and quieter and simpler.
Fluffier.
So let's move on to the third question. This comes in, I think this came in just about the beginning of the month from DW. So it said, I asked my child's other parent not to stand behind me during custody exchanges because it makes me uncomfortable. Make me uncomfortable. They keep doing it. I'm concerned for my safety and personal space. What are my options?
Stand against a wall.
Yeah. Or just keep turning around till you're facing them constantly and then maybe they'll get the message.
I think I saw a TV show that did that once. But yeah, I guess let's just recap a little. So custody exchanges, how were those normally handled with you guys back in the day?
Well, they can always call for the police officer if they fear there's going to be some kind of problem. They could have a civil standby
right,
where the officer shows up, make sure there's no problems.
So do either of you want to kind of fill people in on what a civil standby is in general?
Well, that's basically it. If you expect possible problems, you could call a police officer for what they call a civil standby. That's, let's say you get kicked out of a house and you want to go back and get your stuff, but you fear the people may make up stories or harm you. You could call the police and they'll stand by while you get your stuff. Custody exchanges, the same thing. If you expect there could be problems, you can call the police, tell them you'd like a civil standby where the officer is there as a witness to make sure nothing happens. And if something does happen, then they're there to make an arrest.
So did your department have a designated area to do this at the PD? Because I've seen that at some of the places I visited lately.
They suggested to go into the lobby to do any kind of exchanges, but our PD, they did put up some parking spots right in front of the police department for people, like if they bought something off Craigslist or online or Facebook and they weren't sure if it was really legit or not, they had those safe zones that people could meet to do the transactions right in front of the police department.
Right. Yeah, definitely seen those, which is interesting, right? So somebody would one of the options is go check out your local police department and see if they offer something like that, right? You can go there. At least it's a neutral ground, right? You're not doing it at somebody's house
and they have cameras. The police department has cameras pointing at those zones too.
Yep. And I mean, that's definitely an option. What do they do in Arizona? You just drive out in the desert or?
Yeah, you strap one parent to the cactus and watch the other one laugh. Yeah, no, it's a typical old stuff. If they expect something to go sideways, they'll call you, and the deputy will stand by on the civil because nothing's happened yet. And if it goes criminal, then obviously he's there to do what he's got to do.
Right, for sure. Yeah. So the options are take it to a safer place. All right. So that's one option. The other options are look at your local police department, see if that's something that would be an option, or ask this person to stop doing it. If they continue to do it, then call the police and deal with it that way.
You could even take a witness with you. Take a friend or a witness.
Yep. Good point. All right, let's see. What do we got? Question, I think it's 4, right? So sent in this month from SP. I have a security camera in the front of my house. It detects motion up close. The street is about 70 feet away from the front of my house. It does not detect cars driving by. Well, a couple of times I put my security camera on live and I had it on record. When I looked at the live recorded footage, a car drove by and it had a spotlight shining at the front of the house. My camera recorded a couple of sounds like a snap, sounded like shots as it drove by. I can't see what kind of car it is. It was far too dark, which is kind of a common problem with camera systems, right? I believe it was a police car. Oh, what is the purpose of them doing that? I live across from a forest preserve, and yes, deer will always come to the front and backyard all of the time.
I read this 3 times and I still don't understand it.
It sounds like a drive-by shooting or some sort.
Yeah, or possibly it's a forestry guy that's checking on this forest preserve. The fact is that there's probably just not enough information in this question, right?
Yeah, I don't understand. It says I couldn't see what kind of car it was, and then I go, I think it was a police car. Yeah, really strange. The only other thing is he says deer goes up to the front backyard. Maybe it was a poacher with a spotlight poaching deer.
For sure. And the interesting part about this on the technology side of things is depending on your camera system, your camera can actually cut out, it can look for specific things, pets, people, movement, all of these different things. So if you can't tell what it is or the video looks terrible, maybe it's time to upgrade your video system if you think you're really having a problem, but I guess you could, I wouldn't even say that you'd want some pretty good evidence that there's something going on, but I've been to crazier calls, right? I think over the years, we've probably all been to them where you go to somebody's house or you go respond to a call that ends up being the big nothing, but it was something for them, right? So I guess that's part of our jobs back in the day, so I don't know if, do you guys have you seen, what do you guys do on calls that, the person is freaked out by something, but it's a big nothing? How do you usually handle that?
If they want no contact, you just obviously do a drive-by.
Right.
See if there's nothing out of the ordinary. Other than that, what can you do unless they want you to go up there and talk to them?
Right. So what do you do if you talk to them and they're like, this is this super important thing to me, my worst day, right? That's when we usually go to see people on their worst days, but we see that every day, right? So
right.
How do you separate that out when you go to talk to them and, make them understand that this is important, but not important because it's not a big deal?
Try and rationalize the best you can with them as to the importance of their call, yet on the other side, nothing happens. So we're thankful for that. And if something does come about, make sure you let us know ASAP.
Right. So keep monitoring, right? And I think the biggest thing these days is people don't document things, right? So they think that they're, they've seen it 30 times, but there's no evidence. So when the poor law enforcement person shows up, there's no history, right? So usually, at least as I recall, you have to witness a lot of these things to be able to truly act on them. So if there is not really video or evidence, it's really hard to do anything.
Yeah, the one that was just strange about this, that it detects motion up close. The street's 70 feet away from the house. It does not detect cars driving by. But right. He puts it on live, and he sees a car driving by, says it's too dark and too far to see what it was, but he thinks it was a police car. And, I don't know. It's kind of strange there.
Could be the big nothing. Could be something different. Me, I'd get better cameras.
Yeah,
you can see farther.
You go to the porch, you talk to the guy, you shine your light all around, say, no, everything looks good. If anything else is a problem, give us a call back.
Yep, for sure. Because, I mean, that's what the job is, right? The job is to respond to calls from citizens that are worried about stuff that's going on. Let's see. So this one also came in this month. If a police officer applies for a search warrant and the judge approves it and puts that their date of commission has expired 6 months before the date the search warrant is being executed, that would be the officer's response. What would be the officer's response? Wow, this is, I'm even confused already. If a police officer applies for a search warrant and the judge approves it, but puts that their date of commission has expired 6 months before the date of the search warrant is being executed, what would be the officer's response? Let's answer that first. What are they talking about?
On the search warrants I've done in narcotics, there wasn't any timestamp on how long the judge was able to issue search warrants. However, if there's a disparity like that and the judge did not get his commission again 6 months out, I think that the search warrant was invalid. But it sounds like it's a clerical error.
Yeah, because the rest of the question says, would you still execute the warrant or would you try to have the error corrected? Furthermore, is it the police officers who are executing the warrant's responsibility to check the approved warrant for any errors before executing and possibly conducting a bad search and seizure?
So
and it's true. If the warrant basically is found to be invalid, anything they find is not going to be allowed.
So inadmissible. Right.
If there's an error on it, yeah, the police officer should look at it, check the dates, make sure, the I's are dotted and the T's crossed before they go kick down somebody's door.
Yeah, I would. I know I would. I'd double check all that, right? Because the last thing you want to do is be tied up in the middle of that mess afterwards.
Well, in the county that I worked in with Mark, I think the judge just signed off on the bottom of it. There was no stamp or no commission type thing.
Right. So then it leaves it way more open and gives you flexibility as law enforcement to be able to do it when you need to.
Yeah, exactly. In this case, it sounds like the judge just made a mistake and put the wrong date. It doesn't sound like, they got the search warrant, they waited 6 months, and then, it was a bad date. It sounds like a judge accidentally maybe put the wrong date on it.
Right. I still do that on checks. Do we still write checks?
You do that on purpose.
Oh, that's true. I usually make it 4 years ahead of time, though, like in the future, so that you can't cash it till then. All right. So I hope that answers the question. I guess the answer would be probably clerical error. The fact is that most law enforcement are going to look at all those dates, but at least as far as we've been seeing or seen in the past, those dates are usually not on there. It's just open to execute whenever it needs to happen.
Yeah, bottom line is the officer needs to check everything before they go out for the warrant. Because
you're going to be writing the report. So you might as well figure out if you got it together. Okay, so this is another one. This will be from, let's call him Jim. What are your thoughts on how people are more concerned with getting a ticket than being safe as far as seatbelts are concerned? Well, we can definitely talk about this.
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you that in the last 6 years that I've had to do traffic crashes, I've been happily dumbfounded at how people can walk out of cars that look totally annihilated without a scratch just by virtue of having the seatbelt on. It's made a certain believer out of me. I mean, I've seen pickup trucks head on into Subarus, and the people in the Subarus get out of the car like nothing happened, where the engine was dang near in the passenger compartment. I'm like, the only thing I think kept her going was the fact she had her seatbelt on. Of course, airbags play a big part in that, but
for sure,
you can always tell when the people haven't been wearing their seatbelt because they get really tangled up in the components of the dashboard and all that.
Yeah, and or don't hit the airbag correctly and end up getting injured because of that, because that seatbelt holds you in the position that you need to be to hit that airbag correctly, right? Yeah, I've got tons of story of this. I rolled off of a mountain. We all had our seatbelts on. We almost died. But we were fine, right? Because the seatbelts held us in the car. We could have been ejected, the whole deal. I got into, I think, one other wreck when I was a kid, T-boned by somebody. Seatbelts absolutely helped there. Even the fire guys that responded to that would be like, if you weren't wearing your seatbelt, you'd probably be dead.
Yeah.
So, that and that annoying beeping. Just, I mean, after a while, you just sort of go, yep, that's it. We're good.
Yeah. Well, there's still some of the law enforcement individuals I work with. They put the seatbelt extender in there, which shuts off the beeping, so they can roll without a belt on.
Now,
not that they're not allowed to get in pursuits anymore, but
right, that's true.
It's still, to me, I'd be quite frank with you, I was a non seatbelt kind of guy back in the day, but if I was doing it all over again, I'd definitely be strapped in.
Well, and I think it came from trying to get out with your seatbelt on one day because you have a vest on. You can't feel the seatbelts on you, and then you end up like trying to hang yourself in the front door.
Or it gets tangled on your gun belt.
Oh, yeah, always fun.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I worked in the traffic unit for 8 years, and we got called out for all the fatal accidents, serious injury and fatal accidents. And, you know, the majority of people that were killed in a car wreck were not wearing seatbelts. And like Ed said, I was amazed at how some people could climb out of these cars that are mangled only because they were wearing their seatbelt at the time.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that now, I mean, I guess the other question is department policy usually now states that you have to wear it, right?
As far as mine goes, yes.
Right. So, and obviously the vehicle code states that everybody should be wearing one, right? I hope it's in there.
Down here it does. I don't know about up there.
I've seen enough seatbelt tickets be given for not wearing it, right?
Right. Does peace officers still have an exemption in California?
No, I think we can definitely still talk on our cell phones though, right?
Yeah. Well, I do that down here when I'm rolling down the road, but
so like you're a felon is what you're saying.
Well, yeah. Well, of course, I'm typing on the laptop. I'm punching in calls to service and going 75 miles an hour at the same time.
I could tell you some people get pretty mad about the fact that law enforcement, you know, is exempt from those laws, especially related to phone use. And you got to understand that like most of your career is spent multitasking in a car. That is not the case for most people that drive. Most people that I've seen be driving, maybe they actually are multitasking, like doing their makeup, shaving, reading the newspaper,
eating cereal
in a bowl with milk, right? So I think we've probably seen them all, but it's crazy.
The funny part about it is I can drive better than most people can talking on their cell phone, typing on my laptop at the same time. It's like I can at least keep a straight line.
Yeah. Well, nowadays you don't even need to keep a straight line. You just throw that into self-drive.
Yeah, true.
It just takes over for you. Too bad that law enforcement cars aren't allowed to have that, or don't have that, I should say, because we don't want to pay for it, right?
Well, yeah, the ones down here, the Expos and the Expos have them, but I don't think the Tahoes do.
Really? That's good stuff. Blue Cruise.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying after a while. You start getting close to the line, it starts jerking your hand back. It's like, what the heck, you know?
Yeah, auto-correcting for you because you're a terrible driver. Yeah. All right, let's get a couple more in here. We don't want to make these first episodes super long because we kind of want to see sort of what, where people want the length of these podcasts. So we're trying to stick between 30 minutes and an hour on the first ones and see where that gets us. So this question, probably not fully law enforcement related, but we might as well just talk about it real quick because it has to do with technology and some of those problems that come with that. It says, hello. Yesterday, I noticed that my EA, Epic Games, Ubisoft, Amazon account was all hacked. So basically, the email, they got an IP address, they traced it to Russia, verified that it was correct. What can I do? And the answer to this is nothing.
Call Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. I think.
Is this the same listener that heard the pops on his camera and couldn't make out whether it was a car or a police car?
It is not, but okay. I will say from somebody who does enjoy some gaming and dealing with a lot of online related stuff, this is a problem, right? So these online types of issues are definitely a problem in today's society. People have their accounts hacked all the time, and that hack is usually their own fault, right? So if they don't have two-factor authentication set up, if they don't have a good password, or if they use like password for your password or enter or 1, 2, 3, 4, you're probably going to get completely hacked, right? So, and
if it's from out of the country, you are out of luck.
Yeah. So the fact that this went back to Russia or any country that's outside of the United States, if you're in the United States, you're totally out of luck. So
I'd say just delete everything and then, log back in with new accounts. Just get rid of all your old accounts.
So just to verify, Mark, you're saying he should delete everything. His entire life should be deleted.
Well,
Maybe
he's
we
saying
should
it's EA, Epic Games, Ubisoft, and Amazon account. It just, whatever accounts were
change your
hacked,
passwords.
delete them. And
Change all your passwords, make them 16 characters. You'll hate us all for saying that, but it's true, right? 2-factor authentication to your phone, or at least something, because it's better than what you did. Because the fact that you got hacked probably means that you didn't do a great job on your security. That's for sure.
And keep an eye on all your credit and everything else for, the next couple of years to come, because you never know what, if your information's floating around there on the dark web, it could pop up sooner or later. So you could always get some kind of credit reporting alert. Also sign up for an alert, or the credit reporting agencies. You get a free credit report from each of the 3 once a year. Just keep an eye on your credit to make sure something else doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's for sure. Or if he wants, he could just send all of his personal information to us and we'll make sure it's all safe.
There you go. Attention, Brent.
Yeah, no. We have a person for that, Ed. So
yeah.
that's a side.
Yeah, no,
our new side hustle is doing that. No, don't send us your stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
no. I use one of the credit bureaus on mine, but I locked my account.
right,
And I've actually gone to apply for credit, and it rejected it because it couldn't get into the account.
you're like,
So it doesn't
what
work.
idiot locked my account? Oh, it was me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it does work. You can lock your credit so they can't do a check on you to open up a Verizon account, which is quite frequent these days.
Yeah, or go out and even normal credit card problems, right? That we see all.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
All right, let's see. Let's do a couple more. So
Hey, I got a question here that I want to
you
read.
have to submit it through the
and
website.
Ed can answer.
Okay.
Boy.
So I've been experiencing crazy weird stuff and corruption because I made an anonymous phone call to the FBI and talked about gang stalking and gangs, but the FBI illegally accessed my phone in order to tell gang members I snitched, resulting in me being put on a hit list. I have had to go to jail on purpose several times to stay safe. Before I went, I asked a cop about all the weird stuff I have been seeing on my phone, and he said, that only happens if an FBI mob boss puts a hit on you. Can you please explain to me what a FBI mob boss is? I have experienced corruption from cops as well. Hopefully, I'm moving to the North Slope, Alaska, and getting a good job to live my life in peace.
I would say immediately go buy a roll of aluminum foil and make a tinfoil hat to start with. That would be first and foremost. We got a similar individual like this up in the neck of the woods that I work in, and we get these calls all the time. Helicopters, black Suburbans, the FBI, and la 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 la. So
Is
that's
his
about as
name
much
Mark?
as I can offer you.
That's what I want to know.
What's that?
I said, is his name Mark? I think he's asking this question from personal experience.
Yeah, exactly.
He might have to move a little further away than Alaska because that's still part of the United States, right? He needs to move out of the country then.
I don't
might
know.
wanna go
I don't
to
know
like
if it's safe. Is it safe anywhere?
Go to Russia.
No, I was just going to say the same thing.
Go to Russia. You can't even get in. Oh, yeah. I don't know. That's
Sorry, John, we don't have an answer for you on that one because I'm not aware of what a FBI mob boss is anyway.
well, I know him from the movie.
Should all be cleaned up now with Cash Patel in charge.
Okay, in real life, has to do with police departments. I don't know.
I can tell
about
you
an
that
FBI mob boss.
I would say that most people that are worried about situations like this shouldn't worry because they're really just not that interesting. So, you have to be pretty interesting to have people want to do that to you. If you are, then you should probably know how to handle this type of situation. All right, let's see. We'll do a couple more. So this one is from, let's see, Tina. If you are stopped at an intersection with a red light and you are turning left and you get a flashing yellow turn arrow, can you turn left on that even though the light is still red? Or do you have to wait until the light turns green? And welcome to our first question that doesn't have a state.
Well, being that I was in the traffic unit with us, at least here in California, your normal traffic lights are red, stop, yellow, proceed with caution, and green, you're in the clear. But some of them do have an arrow. And if the arrow's red, you can't turn. If the arrow's green, you have the right of way. If the arrow's yellow, It's the same as the yellow light on the signal. Proceed with caution. You can turn, but proceed with caution.
Yeah, same down here. We got the flashing. It goes green for the to make the turn. You got to control the intersection. You can go. Then it turns flashing yellow after that, telling you, hey, proceed with caution.
So normal laws apply.
I think that one's kind of universal.
Yeah, down here. Yeah, exactly.
And of course, right turn on red, right?
Unless the sign prohibits that type of thing.
Everybody turns right on red here in California. It drives me nuts.
Everybody splits lanes on motorcycles here and drives people nuts, right?
But that's legal.
It's still legal there?
It's fully legal.
Yeah.
Just can't exceed, I think it's something over the speed limit, right?
Yeah. You still see them splitting traffic at 80 miles an hour, though.
That's
I know. True. They got a modified version of that here in Arizona. If traffic is going slower than X amount of speed, you're allowed to split traffic only at a certain speed, but they blow through there. I'm surprised they haven't taken off my rearview mirrors yet. Sorry about that, fellas.
Obviously, felony takedown.
Maybe Ed got taken hostage.
I wish he didn't mute his mic. It would have been awesome. We could hear the whole incident go down.
Yeah. Did he mute it?
Yeah. Maybe we should just leave all this in, and then we could just talk about Ed the entire time.
I agree. Let's leave it in. That's kind of funny. That dog barking was funny, so let's leave it all in.
Oh, my God.
Part of the hazards of doing a live podcast.
This is true. And forgetting that you have a dog.
Hey, when Ed comes back on and talks, don't say anything.
Okay.
Just stay silent.
You guys are. He's probably listening to us right now. Jeez, he has disappeared. This would be the world's worst podcast. Talking for 45 minutes and then silence for 15. When will Ed return to our...
Maybe he can't figure out how to unmute his mic.
He muted it.
Maybe he can't figure out how to unmute it.
I'm back.
Oh, my God.
We had a microburst here Thursday night, tore down all kinds of trees, tore one down in my backyard, smashed the fence, ripped another tree up, and my neighbor's tree got hit by lightning and went down the whole 9 yards. So you got all these landscapers running around trying to get money out of everybody. The dog watches my security cameras right above my desk and sees this guy walking around. She starts barking.
Now that is a smart dog.
She's just another lazy American dog.
Yeah, it's like...
Took you that long to get rid of a landscaper?
Well, he started talking, and I can see his eyeballs are starting to scoot inside the garage. I couldn't go out the front door because a dog would have probably killed him.
Dispatch to all units. It is time to get back on topic. Let's hear that next question.
Are you able to run underglow, rock lights, any additional lighting on the outside of your vehicle in Michigan? And I think we could talk about this in general, because this is something I used to get asked all the time.
Yeah, well, basically every state, their vehicle code is online. You could go online to your Michigan vehicle code and look up auxiliary lighting. It'll tell you what you can and can't have. I know here in California, you could have underlighting on your cars. A lot of people do it at car shows and whatnot, but they have it on in the parking lots or private property. You're not allowed to drive with it on the street, at least here in California. But if you check your Michigan vehicle code, it'll tell you what you can and can't have.
And when you can and can't use it, right? So, because I know specifically off-road use is something that's marked on all of those boxes. Off-road use does not mean the main freeway, right?
But you could put anything on your car, any kind of lights you could have on them, but you can't have them turned on driving down the road.
I know Ed has underglow on his car.
I do. That like flashing pink and purple and all that kind of stuff.
Those are your favorite colors.
Yeah, and then I have LSD on my license plate.
Do you?
Yeah, Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
So people lick it and then they're good to go? That's fine.
That's blotter. It's a blotter. It's a blotter license plate.
That's a terrible plan. Nobody lick any license plates. Okay, so just terrible. So the last question here, and then we'll wrap it up. So it's kind of an interesting question. It's not really something I ran into a lot, if at all, during my career. But I think if you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, it probably would happen. So how do you handcuff somebody with a broken arm in a plaster cast without them wearing a sling, or even if they were wearing a sling? And then how do you handcuff someone who is wearing a sling? So basically, what do you do if somebody has a broken arm and is getting arrested for being whatever. I don't know this answer.
Well, we used to handcuff their one good arm to one of the belt loops on the back of their pants. So you have at least one arm handcuffed behind them. I mean, if somebody's going to be violent or whatnot and they have a cast on, I saw an officer once use a belt and just belt the cast to the guy's side. But you can't handcuff a cast. So yeah, you gotta secure it if the guy's violent. Otherwise, usually you just handcuff one arm behind his back to a belt loop.
Well, I mean, and that cast could easily be used as a weapon, right?
Sure.
So that would be pretty bad not to secure it in some way. So I would say, you're definitely going to secure it. How you secure it is going to be up to maybe department, policy on that.
Because most handcuffs aren't going to open up enough for a cast unless you got like a leg shackle you could put around the cast and then handcuff that behind his back.
Yeah, or
to
waist chains or something.
Right. Yeah, possibly. So, but I mean, I guess there's the other side of that question too, is just trying to take into consideration a lot of factors, right? So if the person is violent or not, obviously they're going to get treated differently, right? So if they're not trying to be, I guess as accommodating as possible for that situation, you don't want to cause them any more injury, right? Because that's not what our job is. Our job is to hopefully keep people safe even when they're being idiots, right? So, where do you go from there? And then, how do you take them into custody? What do you do? I guess in the worst situation, you could call the ambulance and do it that way, right?
Pretty much. It depends if they're cooperative or not. Cooperative, you could handcuff one behind the back and usually transport them. But, if not, you got to secure that cast somehow, which could include calling an ambulance.
I guess you could incorporate that into a 5150. He's kind of a danger to himself and others,
right?
Too,
yeah,
just to get that free ride down to
the old county
to
hospital,
a certain town. Yeah,
that's for
Put
sure.
him in
And
a sling and
maybe that's something that we can talk about in the future. Sort of, some of those policies. Obviously, we want to go into what you should do when you get pulled over. Some of those tips that we used to give in the book, all those different pieces like that. And in future podcasts, I think we'll probably pick out a couple of those to then discuss and maybe pull them out of the book and see if they really do still relate to today's world that we're in, because clearly many things have changed. Do you guys have anything in closing? If not, we'll wrap this up for this week, and then hopefully we'll be back either. I guess we should talk about that too. I think we were talking about doing either weekly or biweekly, as in not twice a week, but twice a month.
right.
What do you guys think?
I think twice a month is fair.
Okay, so we'll start there. See if we get anybody to actually listen to us again.
Yeah, and then if it starts taking off, we'll pick it up.
Well, I'm thinking we'll go to once a week, and then maybe once a day, and then we'll be making so much money we won't even know what.
Quit my day job.
Exactly. And I'll have another one. So that would be fantastic. So
Mark's got his dog cutting loose there.
Man, it sounds.
I did that one online so I could catch up with Ed.
A little lap dog there.
Hey, what's that in the news real quick?
Do you have something?
I do.
Okay.
All right.
Most favorite episode.
Got a couple of stories here. I'll try to do them quick. A Tennessee man is accused of shooting his wife but stopping for beer on the way to taking her to the hospital for treatment.
Nice.
According to the Shelby County District Attorney's Office, 51-year-old DeCarlo Pitchford pulled the trigger on his wife last month. The victim told authorities that she was being blocked from leaving, and when her husband shot her, he said, "I told you to stop playing with me." Prosecutor said Pitchford took his wife to the hospital for treatment, but stopped for beer along the way. He's charged with second-degree attempted murder, domestic assault, and felon in possession of a firearm. He's currently being held on a $350,000 bond.
I got one along those lines, but it's not a funny one. It's a guy lost his life.
Oh, well, let's end on a downer, why don't we?
I don't know if it's Tennessee problems, but this guy picked up a snake in the middle of the what the heck was the name of the park here?
Well, don't say it.
Yeah.
In the middle of a local park, Ed? Yes.
Well, yeah, he picked up what they believe was a timber rattlesnake, which I'd never heard of. I know we got all kinds of crazy ones down here in AZ, but picked it up and it bit him. And then before they can get him to the hospital, he had an allergic reaction and ultimately succumbed to the the rattlesnake bite.
Well, I can tell you in all my years of snake wrangling, you just don't pick up snakes.
No.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if people think they're faster than a snake, but,
well, that guy wasn't.
Yeah. And unfortunately he paid with his life. So my advice to anybody is just, unless you're 100% certain on what you're doing and you do it for a living or something along those lines, I would stay away from grabbing snakes that you're not familiar with.
What does that have to do with the guy that shot his wife and stopped for beer on the way to the hospital?
Well, he was probably reading the article and then stopped to have a beer because he felt sorry for the guy that passed away from getting a snake bite.
Yeah, or there was snakes in his car. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
All right. Well, the only thing that might have made that story more funny would be if the guy's name was Pitchfork and he stabbed his wife with a pitchfork.
Right, there you go.
All right. A woman who threw a bowl of hot food in the face of a Chipotle worker has been sentenced to a month in jail and 2 months of working at a fast food job. He gave her the choice of 90 days in jail or 30-day sentence on top of working 60 days on a fast food job. They should do that more often for people who commit crimes.
With some of the videos I'm seeing of the fatigue going on around this country, they need something besides fast food restaurants and goofballs acting up inside of them.
Well, that's no kidding. I mean, how would you want to be? I mean, where did they go back to work? At a Chipotle for 60 days?
That's probably. Any kind of fast food restaurant, probably.
Wow. I don't know. I don't think anybody would want that liability.
No.
I try to get rid of bad employees, not reward them.
Well, anyway, it's been fun, fellas.
Yeah, no, we will get back together next, I guess, in a week or so, and then we'll do another one. And we'll go from there. Thanks for everybody.
Got to go show the landscaper what he wants done out front.
Well, I'm gonna be looking at his tattoos, trying to see which one says, whatever he's running with.
All right. On that note, we're out of here.
All right. Take care. Bye.
See ya.
Take care. Stay safe.